Hello and welcome to my Yu-Gi-Oh channel. So today we're covering another couple of cards that were introduced within the new structure deck for the ice barriers, and it's a spell and there's a trap card involved. The first card is Clear Wall of the Ice Barrier. It's a continuous spell card with the effect you can only activate one card with this card's name per turn. When this card is activated, you can target one level 4 or lower ice barrier monster in your graveyard and special summon it. 2. While you control 3 or more ice barrier monsters you control are unaffected by activated effects from any opponent's monster special summoned from the extra deck. So the first thing is this card is a little bit of a monster reborn for your ice barriers. That's okay because some of the higher level ones require you to tribute summon them. And obviously, if you're able to special summon into certain cards, then you can either go into the synchro monsters, or you can just go into the alternatives, which are the higher level monsters, whichever route you prefer. The second thing is being able to kind of shut down your opponent's special summon monsters' effects against your ice barriers is a good way of you maintaining control. Saying that, the biggest problem with that is not all of the ice barriers are that powerful. There's a few of them that have very few attack points. They all have relatively decent effects, but most of them don't always synergize too well. If your opponent is able to break and get rid of at least one of your ice barriers, or just make it to the point that you only have 2 of them, this effect goes away and then they can start using effects. The only thing this really does is delay them implementing any kind of effects during their main phase 1. Instead, what they're going to have to do is clear your board and then use these effects during main phase 2. That just stalls for another turn because that means that you're getting the battle phase for them kind of skipped, really. That's the only way I can see it. And the other card is Pulse of TRISHULA. This is a normal trap card with the effect you can only use the first and second effect of this card's name once per turn each. 1. Apply these effects in sequence based on the number of ice barrier synchro monsters with different names you control. 1 plus banish 1 card your opponent controls. 2 plus banish 1 card in your opponent's graveyard, and 3 plus banish 1 random card in your opponent's hand. 2. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets an ice barrier synchro monster you control, you can banish this card from your graveyard to negate that effect. So this card, essentially, it's TRISHULA as a trap card. Depending on what you've got in terms of ice barriers, synchro monsters, gives you a certain amount of advantage. Of course, I think there are 3 ice barrier synchros at the moment. You've got Duloran, you've got Brionac, and you've got TRISHULA. Hopefully this might encourage or introduce a couple more, just because that's the impression I'm getting from it. It's just TRISHULA's effect, which is again decent, and it can be responded if your opponent is trying to get rid of this card with something like MST, or if they try and get rid of one of your synchro monsters, so you can get as much value from this card as possible. The other thing about the effect is you're able to protect an ice barrier synchro monster when this is in the graveyard, so that's always, a decent effect. Having a secondary part to it is good. It provides some level of protection that the deck really needs, but I would still say it needs at least 1 or 2 more synchro monsters to make it more powerful. What do you guys think of these 2 cards? Do you prefer them? Do you like them? Do you think they're quite boring? Do you think they're quite plain for how ice barriers are? Do you think they need more upgrades to some of the synchro monsters? Whatever you think, leave those comments down below. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe.